Your grass is zero point 0.5 inches too tall. The citation hit my door at 7:15 Monday morning. $50 fine. 72 hours to comply. I stared at my lawn mowed 3 days ago. Perfect. Identical to every other yard on our Virginia street. Behind me, my 18-year-old son Tyler held his Naval Academy interview prep. Dad, what's wrong? That's when it clicked. Someone wasn't just harassing us. They were targeting Tyler's military future. The HOA president filing these violations, Richard Garrett, the defense contractor I'd testified against 15 years ago for weapons trafficking in Iraq. He'd spent those years in federal prison, blaming me, planning revenge. And he wasn't stopping with citations. He was planning something worse. Something timed exactly when Navy SEALs arrived to evaluate Tyler. But Garrett made one fatal mistake. Those SEALs were my former teammates. And we'd been expecting him. I'm Daniel Cross, retired Army intelligence analyst. 23 years of service, including multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, where I specialized in investigating contractor fraud and weapons trafficking. My wife Jennifer is a trauma nurse at Innova Alexandria Hospital. The kind of person who saves lives while staying calm when everything's falling apart. And Tyler, our only child, had worked his entire high school career toward one goal, the United States Naval Academy. Riverside Meadows wasn't supposed to be a battlefield. When we moved here 18 months ago, it seemed like the perfect place to build post-military life-quiet streets. Good schools. Close to DC, where my consulting work was based, the HOA seemed reasonable during our home inspection. Standard rules about lawn maintenance. Architectural guidelines. Our days. Ordinance. Nothing suggested the nightmare that would unfold once Richard Garrett became president. The harassment started small. That first citation about grass height was followed the next day by a complaint claiming our garbage bins were visible from the street in violation of aesthetic guidelines, even though our bins sat in the garage, exactly like everyone else's. Wednesday brought an accusation of unauthorized vehicle overnight parking, despite Jennifer's Honda sitting in our driveway where it parked every single night. Thursday claimed we'd violated noise ordinances, while Tyler did homework with music barely audible from inside our house. By Friday, I was documenting everything with the methodical precision my intelligence training had ingrained. 4 citations in 4 days wasn't random harassment. It was targeted, systematic, and escalating according to a pattern someone had planned carefully. When I pulled out the HOA bylaws to verify the violations, the problem became obvious. Half the rules they cited didn't exist in any official document, and the rest were so vague they could mean whatever an enforcer wanted them to mean. I started asking neighbors about their experiences. Mrs. Patricia Hendricks, a retired history teacher who'd lived on our street for 12 years, invited me in for coffee and shared information that made the pattern clear. "Oh, honey, you're getting the special treatment," she said, her voice carrying sympathy mixed with resignation. Richard Garrett's been rough on newcomers since he became president 6 months ago. Says standards are slipping. Too many new families bringing down the neighborhood character. She lowered her voice. He likes power. Most people just pay the fines rather than deal with months of harassment. That evening, Tyler came home from soccer practice with his usual energy, immediately sensing the tension that had been building in our house all week. When I explained the citation situation, his reaction revealed concerns that hit me harder than any false accusation ever could. "Dad, my Naval Academy interview is next week," he said, genuine worry creeping into his voice. "This stuff won't affect it, right? I mean, they do background checks on the whole family. What if this makes us look like we don't follow rules?" The question felt like a physical blow because it revealed how much weight my 18-year-old son was carrying. Here was a kid who'd maintained a 4.0 GPA while playing varsity soccer and volunteering at the Veterans Hospital. Now he was worried that some bureaucrat's power trip might derail dreams he'd worked toward his entire high school career. Don't worry. I told him, trying to project more confidence than I felt. This is just HOA nonsense. It won't affect anything important. But later that night, something nagged at me. The intensity of the harassment. The timing coinciding with Tyler's academy interview. The systematic nature of violations that seemed designed to create an official record of problems with our family. It felt less like random power tripping and more like reconnaissance, building a case, gathering intelligence before a larger operation. My old instincts kicked in. I opened my laptop and typed Richard Garrett Defense Contractor, Virginia into the search engine, not really expecting to find anything significant. What appeared on my screen made my blood run cold and brought back memories I'd tried to leave buried in Iraq. Court-martial proceedings from 2009. Fraud charges. Weapons trafficking. Dishonorable discharge. And there, cited multiple times in military justice database articles, was my own name, Staff Sergeant Daniel Cross, the intelligence analyst whose investigation and testimony had provided crucial evidence. The memories flooded back with painful clarity. Garrett had been a defense contractor selling weapons and equipment to insurgent groups while American soldiers went without proper supplies. My 4-month investigation had uncovered financial records, documented illegal transactions, and tracked shipments to enemy forces. My courtroom testimony had sent him to federal prison before his dishonorable discharge ended his military career forever. I'd thought justice was served and the matter permanently closed. But apparently Richard Garrett had spent 15 years in prison nursing thoughts of revenge, planning exactly how he'd make me suffer when opportunity finally presented itself. I walked to the front window, needing air and perspective as implications crashed through my mind. Our street looked perfectly normal in that quintessential suburban way, porch lights creating warm circles, children's bikes scattered on sidewalks. The American dream we'd worked 23 years to afford. But standing under the streetlight at the corner, clearly visible and obviously positioned, so I'd see him, was Richard Garrett. He wasn't trying to hide. He stood there watching my house. And when our eyes met across the distance, he smiled. Not a neighborly gesture, something cold and calculating. The satisfied expression of someone who'd been waiting 15 years for this precise moment. He remained there for several seconds, making absolutely certain I saw him and understood the message. Then he turned and walked slowly back toward his house, with the deliberate pace of someone who had all the time in the world. As his silhouette disappeared into shadows, I realized with crystalline clarity that the petty citations were merely opening moves in a much larger and more dangerous game, and whatever he was planning, it was time to coincide with the moment Tyler's Naval Academy dreams would be most vulnerable. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with every citation spread out, analyzing them the way I'd analyzed intelligence reports in Baghdad, looking for patterns, searching for the operational plan hidden beneath surface harassment. By morning, I understood what I was looking at. A documented record of violations being created to justify future action. But what action? What could Garrett do with HOA citations that would actually damage Tyler's academy prospects? The answer came with horrifying clarity if Tyler had an arrest record, any arrest record. Even one based on false charges, his Naval Academy appointment would be delayed pending investigation. And if those charges involved something serious, like drugs, the appointment could be revoked entirely. Garrett wasn't planning to stop with citations. He was planning to frame my son. 7 o'clock, Friday morning. I stepped outside to retrieve the newspaper and found myself face to face with Richard Garrett, who was conveniently taking his morning walk past our house. Every military instinct I'd developed during 23 years of intelligence work screamed warnings about this encounter. "Mr. Cross," he called out with manufactured friendliness, altering his path to approach me directly. "How are you settling into our neighborhood? I heard through the grapevine you have military background." His tone carried casual interest, but his eyes revealed calculations that reminded me of interrogation techniques I'd witnessed in Iraq. Every word felt like probing for weaknesses while maintaining plausible deniability. "Yes, 23 years, Army intelligence," I replied carefully, keeping my voice neutral while studying his reaction for tells. He nodded slowly, savoring this moment of face-to-face contact with the man who destroyed his career 15 years ago. "Interesting," he said, drawing out the word. "Small world, isn't it? You never know who you might run into in the most unexpected places." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. He was announcing that he'd found me, that this wasn't accidental, and that he remembered everything about our shared history in Iraq. He stood there, another moment, enjoying my recognition and discomfort, then continued his walk with a casual wave. The harassment escalated immediately. By 10 o'clock, I received a call from someone claiming to be HOA Emergency Services, demanding immediate access to inspect our electrical systems for code violations. When I requested credentials, the caller became aggressive, insisting emergency inspections didn't require documentation. Afternoon brought a towing company claiming they had orders to remove improperly registered vehicles from our driveway. When I started photographing their truck and license plate, they suddenly remembered an urgent call elsewhere and drove off quickly. Evening brought police officers responding to anonymous noise complaints about our address. The officers were professional and apologetic, clearly recognizing the complaints as harassment. "We've had 3 calls about this address today," one officer explained, "but everything looks perfectly normal. Sometimes people use noise complaints to settle personal disputes." Saturday morning, Tyler approached me with information that transformed my concern into genuine alarm. "Dad, there's been a white sedan following me from school for the past 2 days," he said, showing me photos on his phone. Same car, same driver, never gets out, just watches. I studied the photos, then ran the license plate through databases I still had access to from consulting work. What I discovered elevated the situation beyond harassment into something far more dangerous. The vehicle was registered to Sentinel Security Services, a private investigation company owned by Marcus Garrett, Richard's younger brother. This wasn't personal revenge anymore. It was coordinated surveillance using professional resources. "He's not just harassing us," I told Jennifer that evening. "He's conducting active surveillance using his brother's security company. This has moved beyond HOA power trips into something much more dangerous." Jennifer's face went pale. "Daniel, what if this gets worse? Tyler's interview is in 3 days. What if they try to sabotage that somehow? I won't let him ruin Tyler's future," I said, meaning every word, with intensity that surprised me. I stopped him once when he was endangering American soldiers. I'll stop him again. Sunday night at 2 o'clock in the morning, our motion sensors activated with warnings that jolted me awake instantly. I grabbed the baseball bat from my closet and checked security camera feeds. seeing a dark figure moving around our property. By the time I made it outside, the person was gone. But thorough search revealed something that kicked my training into high alert. Attached to my car's undercarriage was a GPS tracking device. Small, black, expensive, professional-grade surveillance equipment. I destroyed it with hammer blows that felt symbolic. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. You shouldn't have done that. Cross. Richard Garrett's voice was coldly furious. I was planning to keep this civilized, but you've just made it personal. The line went dead. Monday morning brought unexpected arrivals that would change everything. 3 identical rental sedans pulled up with synchronized precision. From the lead car stepped Master Chief Marcus Smith, my former teammate from Iraq, still looking every inch, the professional warrior even in civilian clothes. Behind him came Wilson, Jackson, and Miller, all carrying the unmistakable posture of career SEALs. Tyler burst through our door with excitement I hadn't seen in weeks. Dad, Master Chief Smith is here for my interview. Marcus approached with a firm handshake. Tyler, we're here for your 3-day leadership assessment to determine your academy readiness. We'll be testing problem solving under pressure and natural command presence. Wilson immediately noticed my makeshift security measures around the property. Daniel, you've got quite a setup here. You expecting trouble. I found myself explaining the HOA harassment, the surveillance, the escalating intimidation. The SEALs listened with growing concern. From his house, Richard Garrett watched through his window, his face showing confusion and alarm as he observed military vehicles and professional operators. I could see him talking rapidly on his phone, gestures becoming increasingly agitated. Change of plans. I heard him say loud enough to carry, "We need to move faster." Garrett didn't recognize these were actual SEALs conducting official academy evaluation. He thought I'd hired security. His miscalculation would prove costly. Tyler's assessment began immediately, with Marcus setting up leadership scenarios in our backyard. Watching Tyler work through complex problems with calm analytical thinking filled me with pride. Kid has natural command presence. Marcus told me quietly. The academy would be lucky to have him. By afternoon, surveillance around our house had escalated dramatically. Multiple unfamiliar vehicles positioned themselves with clear sight lines to our property. Wilson identified unmanned drones conducting aerial reconnaissance. Daniel, you've got serious surveillance here, Wilson reported. Military-grade equipment. Coordinated positioning. This isn't amateur harassment. That evening, Jackson conducted intelligence analysis using military networks. What he discovered connected all the pieces. Richard Garrett. Jackson announced grimly, dishonorably discharged 2009 for weapons trafficking. Your testimony sent him to prison for 15 years. Marcus processed this with strategic thinking. He's systematically targeting Tyler's military future as revenge against you. Destroy your son's dreams. Destroy your legacy. Tyler overheard enough to understand. Someone's trying to sabotage my academy application because of something Dad did. When I explained the Iraq situation fully, Tyler's response was immediate. Then you did the right thing. Dad, if he was helping people kill American soldiers, stopping him was your duty. Unknown to us, Garrett was finalizing his operation. Tomorrow morning during their military exercise, he instructed operatives with precision. Make it look like a DEA bust. Once the kid has an arrest record, his Navy dreams are finished. Wilson. Monitoring communications, frequencies. Intercepted coordination calls. Guys, they're coming tomorrow morning. Fake DEA raid during Tyler's evaluation. They're planning to plant evidence and arrest him on drug charges. Marcus's response was immediate, not on my watch. Within minutes, we had their entire operation mapped out. Who was driving when they'd arrive? Where they'd plant evidence. Jackson spread intelligence across the table with professional efficiency. Marcus looked at Tyler. This isn't just about the academy. How you handle tomorrow under pressure is exactly how an officer is judged. My concerns about exposing Tyler to this led to discussion with Marcus. I don't want Tyler traumatized for academy politics. Danielle, Tyler needs to see how real leadership handles corrupt authority. Marcus explained. This isn't revenge, it's justice. And lessons that will serve him well as a naval officer. Miller's community preparation proved crucial. He mentioned Tyler's evaluation to Mrs. Hendricks. Information that spread through neighborhood networks with predictable speed. Several neighbors planned to observe. Unknowingly positioning themselves as witnesses, Marcus coordinated federal response through channels his clearances provided. My contacts at DEA will ensure real agents respond appropriately. They'll arrive 10 minutes after the fake team begins. That evening's family conversation revealed Tyler's understanding. If they're destroying my future because you did the right thing, then I'll show them what a cross does when threatened. We stand up to corruption. Dawn approached with Wilson detecting coordinated movement. 6 vehicles converging. 30 minutes ahead of schedule. Game time. Marcus said simply, 9:30 brought thunderous arrival of 6 black SUVs with DEA markings. 8 men emerged in tactical gear. Their movements, suggesting training despite subtle tells, marking them as imposters. The team leader approached with theatrical swagger. Michael Caine. Drug Enforcement Administration. We have a warrant for Tyler Cross in connection with controlled substance violations. Our neighborhood responded exactly as predicted. 15 residents emerging to witness what they believed was legitimate federal law enforcement. Mrs. Hendricks positioned herself prominently. Phone held high as she began streaming. From his window, Garrett watched with visible satisfaction as his 15-year revenge fantasy reached its climax. I demanded to see their warrant. Probable cause search. Caine replied dismissively. Stand aside. Marcus recognized this as Tyler's test. This is your moment, he whispered. How does a naval officer respond when corrupt authority abuses power? Tyler stepped forward with remarkable composure. Sir, I respectfully request proper identification and documentation of your authority. Caine ignored the request, directing his team to search Tyler's room. Wilson gave me a small nod. Everything was recording. The planted evidence appeared exactly as predicted. One operative discovering white powder hidden in Tyler's academy materials. Look what we found, he announced loudly. Tyler's response was immediate. That's not mine. I've never seen that before. Marcus stepped forward with unmistakable authority. Gentlemen, I'm Master Chief Marcus Smith, United States Navy SEALs. I'm conducting an official military evaluation. You're interfering with Naval Academy operations. Caine maintained his performance. The military has no jurisdiction over federal drug enforcement. Tyler's response revealed natural leadership. Master Chief. What would a naval officer do in this situation? Wilson activated the climactic revelation, projecting intercepted communications onto our garage door. Audio of Garrett coordinating yesterday's payment, echoed across our street. Authentic federal vehicles arrived perfectly as Agent Sarah Mills announced genuine authority. Nobody moves. Federal investigation in progress. Misses. Hendrix's stream captured the moment truth became undeniable. Oh my God. They're fake cops. This is fraud. Garrett's desperation drove him from his house. Jackson intercepted him with professional efficiency. Richard Garrett, you're under arrest for conspiracy and fraud, even handcuffed. Tyler demonstrated leadership by addressing our community. Thank you for standing up for truth. This is what America means, community protecting community, when corruption threatens innocent people. But celebration was interrupted when Garrett broke free and pulled a pistol. Miller moved with fluid precision, disarming him in under 3 seconds without a shot fired. Weapons training teaches de-escalation first. Jackson explained to the stunned crowd. We neutralize threats. We don't eliminate people. Agent Mills took command. Richard Garrett, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, impersonating federal officers, weapons violations, and civil rights violations. Our neighborhood exploded with questions. Mrs. Hendrix continued streaming. Military heroes saved our neighborhood from corruption. Agent Mills addressed the crowd with explanations revealing the full scope. Mr. Garrett orchestrated elaborate revenge targeting the Cross family. Years ago, Daniel's testimony exposed his weapons trafficking in Iraq, costing him his career and sending him to prison. Local news crews arrived within minutes. Tyler faced cameras with surprising calm. My father did his duty, protecting American soldiers from people who would sell weapons to our enemies. I'm proud to follow his example. When reporters asked if he still planned to pursue the academy, Tyler glanced at Marcus and nodded. More than ever. Today showed me what real leadership looks like. The street didn't feel real until the last police lights disappeared. Agent Mills walked the line of residents, calmly collecting names and footage. When she reached Tyler, her expression softened. You did good. But you don't speak to anyone without counsel. Jennifer was shaking, holding Tyler's wrist, like anchoring him to earth. Across the street, Mrs. Hendrix stopped streaming and simply said, I'm sorry. Around her, neighbors nodded, admitting they'd been manipulated. That afternoon, when our house went quiet, Marcus pulled up a chair across from Tyler. You didn't fold. You didn't lash out. You asked for lawful authority and kept your dignity. That's what I needed to see. Tyler's voice cracked. I thought I was going to lose everything. Jennifer reached for his hand. I reached for his shoulder. At that moment, I didn't care about Garrett. I cared that my son was still here. Still himself. Still unbroken. The next morning, the interim HOA board posted emergency notice freezing all enforcement. They scheduled a resident meeting for the weekend, not about grass height, but about power and what happens when people confuse control with community. The clubhouse was packed with people who'd watched a teenager get shoved around in his driveway. The board opened with a statement freezing every contract tied to outside security and announcing an audit of every violation issued. Someone stood up. Garrett bullied me for months. I paid just to make it stop. Another neighbor said intimidation felt normal. A retired Army veteran said he recognized fake authority the moment he saw it. The vote was unanimous. Garrett was removed from every position. The room erupted not in celebration, but in release. After the meeting, a woman approached Jennifer and Tyler. I filmed the whole raid. I apologize for not stepping in sooner. Filming was stepping in, Jennifer said gently. The camera kept the truth alive. The federal case moved fast because it didn't rely on memory, it relied on time-stamped footage and plain words. Fake badges, magnetic decals, money trails, planted evidence. All of it lined up like dominoes that couldn't be rearranged. Garrett tried to claim this was personal history. Two men with an old feud. But that argument dies when you put a teenager in handcuffs over a lie. Weeks later, we sat in a courtroom. Garrett looked smaller than he ever had under that streetlight. The judge spoke with blunt clarity, describing impersonation, conspiracy, intimidation, civil rights violations. When she imposed sentence, Garrett didn't get closure. He got a bailiff's hand on his arm and the sound of a door closing. On the drive home, Tyler stared out the window. So that's it. He really did all this because you did your job. Yes. I said, and that's why you don't let people like that rewrite what duty means. Life didn't snap back to normal in one cut, it returned in pieces. A neighbor dropping off dinner. Jennifer sleeping through the night. Tyler running without scanning the street behind him. Days later, Tyler asked me to walk the neighborhood. We passed the corner house where Garrett used to watch. The place felt empty now, like a stage, after everyone realizes the spotlight was never the point. I hated how they tried to make me look guilty. Tyler said, for a second, I wondered if the world would believe them. The world believes uniforms and titles until it sees proof. I told him, that's why we build proof. That's why we stay calm. That's why we don't let anger do our thinking. He nodded, and I saw something settle inside him. Not innocence lost, more like sharpening. Like understanding that honor isn't a word you say. It's a posture you hold when someone tries to knock you over. Then, the envelope came. Plain afternoon, tucked between grocery flyers. But the seal on front made Tyler stop moving. He held it with both hands. Jennifer stood beside him, calm in the way only someone trained to steady others can manage. My heart was doing something stupid, like stepping into a briefing room about to hear whether the mission changed. If it's bad news, Tyler said, I don't want you thinking it's because of you. It will never be because of me. I said, whatever it says, it's because of you. He opened it carefully. Read the first line. His eyes moved fast, then stopped. Then moved again, like he couldn't trust what he was seeing. His shoulders dropped as if he'd been carrying weight for weeks, and finally set it down. A smile spread across his face, quiet at first. Then, unstoppable. I got it. Jennifer covered her mouth and cried anyway. I pulled my son into a hug so tight I felt him laugh against my shoulder. Not because the world suddenly became fair, but because we'd stood in the middle of an ugly lie and refused to let it define him. Later that night, Marcus called Tyler. Remember what you learned. Real authority doesn't need costumes. It doesn't need fear. It doesn't need to hurt people to prove it exists. Tyler stared at the letter on the table, then folded it carefully. We didn't let them write my story. And for the first time since that first ridiculous citation showed up, I believed the chapter was closed. Holding on to hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Garrett spent 15 years nursing a grudge just to destroy his own life in spectacular fashion. Sometimes the best revenge is just living well and letting justice handle the rest. Tyler learned that day what real leadership looks like, not the fake authority of someone with a title and a grudge, but the quiet strength of professionals who protect others without needing recognition. That's the kind of officer the Navy needs. That's the kind of man he's becoming. And Richard Garrett. He learned that some people don't make good victims, especially when those people have friends who know how to turn surveillance into evidence. harassment into federal charges, and revenge plots into prison sentences. Justice served. Dreams protected. Family defended. Sometimes that's all that matters.